Oh, there is a pin here.
It's actually, I was wondering how long it was going to take for you to know.
Oh, look, he knew it all along. Okay, we have the sound people over there. We have the lighting people over there. We have the actors over there. Attention, stage left! Excuse me. You know how actors are.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, action!
Hey. Oh, great.
Cut.
Got in the shadow.
The scene was lousy. We're going to have to start it all over again. Look right here.
That's pretty good.
Director. I have to put up with this.
Yeah, he does.
We just passed 10,000 subscribers on this channel, and that means a lot to me because I started doing video production on cameras like this back in the mid-1980s. And it's kind of like a continuous progression from back in the 1980s up to 35 years later. Here we are on YouTube. Well, I received an email the other day from YouTube, whoever those people are, congratulating me for, yes, 10,000 subscribers. Well, you don't really get anything for 10,000 subscribers, like you don't get a plaque or anything. You can make your own homemade little thing like I have here. But the real importance of 10,000 subscribers is really all about you guys. And now, here he is, the star of our show, Bob.
We've all been kind of curious about your drink. By the way, we're talking with Joe Van Cleve on the new drink that is that we all have known and loved for several years now. In the past year, it's just reached quite a climactic level of popularity. Joe Van Cleve is the innovator.
There was a soft drink of sorts that had been invented by an anonymous person that was popularized amongst the wagon trains. There was a common drink that was made. We do know that it involved, fundamentally, the butchering of large farm animals such as hogs and sows, and even small cows.
That's incredible.
And it involved using the bottom buckboard portion of the wagon.
Oh.
After this concoction had been mixed up, it was put into glass jars to ferment. But before the top was sealed up, they would insert the last special ingredient. So I was thinking the other day about this little venture in YouTube that started, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe more than that, when I did a couple videos on pinhole photography, is how I think I started this channel. But I started thinking about how did I really get interested in video and video production. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it goes a lot further back in time than just a few years. And in fact, it predates YouTube itself by quite a few decades. So I go back to 1978. It was probably March or April of 1978. I was stationed on board the USS Constellation, CV-64, an aircraft carrier. We were off the coast of San Diego, about 80 miles, doing some training, and that morning I woke up on the ship, took a helicopter to North Island Naval Air Station, took a cab to the airport, took a flight to Chicago, took another ride up to North Chicago at the Naval Training Center, and I spent about 3 months learning about closed-circuit video for the Navy. And that's where I got introduced to closed-circuit video and about television and video technology in general. In the 1980s, after I got out of the military, I was a TV repairman and worked on camcorders and video recorders and all kinds of electronic systems like that. And it's interesting, in the process of tinkering with cameras and stuff, I started playing with them and got interested in them. And over the years, I've amassed a collection. This is not all of them, but I've amassed a number of books that have interested me about
independent filmmaking, video production, and all that. I got really seriously interested in video in the early 90s, like 1990 or 91. I got my first camcorder was actually a Canon Hi8. It precedes this Sony. A few interesting and fun videos were done with the Canon and with the earlier version of this. And,
this is our main processing room. As you can see, it's rather small, but we keep it small in order to control the airflow to get a consistent humidity and temperature. This is our main processing vessel, as we call it. It has insulation around it to protect it against temperature variations from the outside. Okay, this is a specific kind of wood pulp material, filtering material that is used in the manufacturing process. We actually use this in order to strain some of the debris off the surface as it's fermenting. Now, if you would wish, I will show you how we process our debris here.
That'd be quite interesting. Well, I'll be darned. That's it right there.
That's it right there. You can see it's fermenting right inside of there.
And this is the special. This is the one that you have a patent on that we've heard so much.
Now we have left out a few of the ingredients because of proprietary protectionism. You know, we have competitors. We must admit. I will show you now. Demonstrate to you how this works.
And you're what are you doing? What is this now?
Okay, this is a pressure control valve.
Okay.
And this will control the pressure.
PCV.
Yes, it's a PCV valve, controls the pressure of the liquid flow.
Kind of like what's in an automobile.
Very much so. Yes.
Be darned.
Here it goes.
This is now this is now processing this drink.
Yes, it is.
And now, in the other part of the building, which we won't have time to go to, this is what the drink goes into, and then it gets bottled and manufactured.
That's correct.
It goes into the dark room.
It's going down into the next room where it will be bottled.
Nice.
We can go over there and show it to you.
I had a lot of fun with that strictly analog-based editing production. But now that we're in the digital realm and cameras are ubiquitous and editing software is easy to use, it's a whole nother ballgame. It is a lot easier, but I'm glad I have the foundation of this. So these days, you can shoot video on your phone, a lot of different ways of doing it. I've been using Panasonic Lumix Micro Four Thirds mainly because I started out with these cameras as still cameras. I have this older G5 that I like to use, this little 7 Artisans 25mm f 1.8 manual focus lens. It's a sweet little lens, and it makes for some really nice B-roll manual focused footage. But this camera does not have an external mic jack. It's just a real simple video recording system, but it's a tiny camera. The G7 is a little bigger, more angular, not quite as nice looking. This particular lens is the 14-42 kit lens. It is okay. I think I like the G5 better just because it's a smaller camera. This was Panasonic's first 4K camera, but I generally don't use it in 4K, 1080p. But these are nice little small mirrorless cameras for video production. The main camera is a Panasonic Lumix GH3 that we're recording on now, but these are very convenient. But you go back to the older technology like a tape-based camcorder, and I actually happen to have some Sony batteries that are still good. Put it on standby. Bling. Hey, looky there. It has a color flip-out screen. It has a monochrome black and white viewfinder. Yes, I have brand new TDK Hi8 tapes that have never been opened, so I could still use a tape-based analog camcorder. This one is okay. It's sort of a middle-of-the-road kind of camcorder. I did a lot of video with this back in the early 90s. It has some analog outputs, and through some dongles and converter boxes you can now easily digitize this stuff, although I got to be honest with you, the picture quality is not nearly as good as something like this. So camera technology has changed dramatically in the last few decades, but the principles of storytelling via motion picture hasn't really changed. Those principles are pretty much the same. So if you go through some of these books, we'll start with Feature Filmmaking at Used Car Prices. This a book by Rick Schmidt. Here you go, Making Better Movies. This was published by the Amateur Cinema League Incorporated, published in 1935. And it is a very cool old book about film production using 8mm film and splicing and those old film cameras, but also how to build stories, how to build scripts, and all that. So very interesting. Here's one, How to Make Good Movies. This is published by the Eastman Kodak Company. Your basic Kodachrome looking shots, and this is basically a book on how to use Kodachrome film and movie making, and it's a very informative book, a very technically well put together book, How to Shoot Better Video, and it's an emphasis on VHS beta and 8mm camcorders. This was a really interesting book. This is called Tube, The Invention of Television by David Fisher, Marshall John Fisher. This is a very interesting history of television, very exhaustive and authoritative. Okay, one of my most favorite books of all time for video. This is called Illuminating Video, An Essential Guide to Video Art. And if you're not familiar with what video art is, it's a whole other genre that came out probably in the early 60s when Sony came out with their first black and white Portapacks. So these are basically, we're talking about as like either short experimental film or video installations as art. And it is a very interesting book about the history of video art, and this was a very inspiring book, which reminds me, one of the books that's not currently in this stack is a book by Bill Viola, who was a pretty notable video artist. His book was also very inspiring to me. This one was really good for its time. John Hedgecoe's Complete Video Course, a step-by-step instructional guide to making great videos. This came out, what is this, 89, and it's a nice guidebook to video production. This is the kind of book that you would use if you wanted to learn how to make good wedding videos back in the day. Another one, Video Camcorder School, and this was a Reader's Digest published book. Again, another one of these glossy color books on how to use camcorders. One of my more favorite books in my collection is called Independent Video by Ken Marsh, and this was published way back in 1974, A Complete Guide to the Physics, Operation, and Application of New Television for the Student, the Artist, or Community TV. So this is back when what they call new television was when these portable video cameras and recorders first came out. And this is a very kind of whole earth catalog-ish kind of looking book with really fun hand-drawn illustrations of how video technology and video production technology works. So this is Expanded Cinema by Gene Youngblood with an introduction by Buckminster Fuller. This came out in 1970, and this is really kind of talking about the new world of experimental video. And of course, you wouldn't be a student of video without also having a couple books by Marshall McLuhan, right? The Gutenberg Galaxy and Understanding Media. Those are really important books. Then, of course, if you're going to be into this whole media theory, it really helps to have Roland Barthes' Camera Lucida, right? Sort of a little bit of media theory is important to have as a background, I think, for understanding video. I've kind of been a student of the history of video, especially video art, since I first got into it in 1978 in the U.S. Navy, right? So my video experience has been going back much further than YouTube, which is interesting. I hadn't really thought about that until I started thinking about this 10,000 subscriber milestone. Well, I started this video yesterday with the idea that, I could just pull out a few of my old analog tapes and copy them over to digital and maybe show you a few clips. And I ended up taking the entire day and late into the evening converting some of these, and some of them haven't really fared well over the years. Like, Well, I have a VHS of some of my experimental videos. I'm not going to show those right now, maybe a future video. Did a movie with a friend of mine, Larry Walton, who lives up in Oregon, called Choco Zombie. We filmed a campy kind of B-grade sci-fi / horror film, 13 minutes long, in Chaco Canyon in northwest New Mexico. That was kind of fun. I'm not going to show you that right now. In the early 2000s, my friend David Loving and I, we concocted a film called Bosque Abduction. And bosque is a Spanish word that means a forest that surrounds a river. So this specifically talks about the Rio Grande going through Albuquerque. There's a green belt of forest surrounding the river. Anyways, so we concocted this campy, I don't know if it was sci-fi, yeah, kind of a sci-fi movie about a guy whose wife gets abducted in the bosque by aliens, supposedly. David actually did the video production, video edit, and it used to be up on YouTube, but it got taken down because of music, some of the music he was using. I don't think he's put it back on YouTube yet. If I find a link to the Bosque Abduction, I'll put it down below. But it was basically a black and white video that was trying to be styled after some 1950s sci-fi movie, and I play the bad guy, of course, right? So that was fun. But the thing that I really remember from my early days of tinkering around with videos is about 1990, when I first got my first Canon High 8 camcorder. I would sit in my apartment with my television set and the VCR, and I would plug my camcorder directly into the VCR, have a long cord for my dynamic microphone, and I would hold the microphone, sit at the couch, and I would just basically do a thing that I called the Joe Show, which is I would just sit there and read like catalogs and magazines and pretend like it was highly informational, and it was so bad that it's actually pretty funny. This is your announcer speaking, and now here he is, the star of our show, Joe. Hi, everybody. Good evening again. Welcome to
the story of the Ten Commandments. And Moses went up unto Mount Sinai.
Okay.
And God said, "Take 2 tablets and call me in the morning."
So a lot of that footage is really poor quality because the lighting was bad, and the audio is not that great. But I remember my friend Bob, who was a broadcast engineer. He came over one night to visit, and we just went into this ad hoc video shooting, and I ended up calling it the Bob Show, and we ended up calling it the Conestoga Cooler episode. He had brought over a Calistoga cooler with some kind of a beverage, like a soda kind of beverage. I just started riffing on this cooler, and I come up with this storyline that my ancestors, when they went across the great western U.S. in a covered wagon, in a Conestoga wagon, they invented this beverage that they made in the back of their wagon, and that I was manufacturing this, and we kind of showed in my little dingy apartment how I manufactured this. And it's a real funny video. It's very poor quality because it was second generation, recorded off High 8, copied over to VHS, and now digitized.
And this is used for testing the quality of the fluids.
The quality, this right here.
This is what goes to the laboratory for chemical analysis for quality control.
This is amazing.
But I will show you the end result after it comes out of the laboratory. It has gone into a sample bottle with a sample label.
Fantastic. And of course, your opinion?
Very good bouquet.
Would you mind if I tried that? This is
sure.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm impressed. Oh.
And I didn't really realize it until much later, more recently, that some of these Joe Show episodes really were the forerunner of vlogging, video logging. And that's kind of what I was doing back in 1990 and 91. I was sitting there vlogging on my couch with a camcorder and a VCR. That was pretty funny. So all of this is kind of background. I'm kind of giving you a little bit of background to how I ended up on YouTube. It predates YouTube by decades, as I said earlier. But what I've really enjoyed about my YouTube journey is I've come across a few specific subject matters that really interest me, and also there's interest out there. Film photography, basically silver gelatin photography, kind of alternative methods of using it, and also, of course, typewriters and other archaic forms of technology, tape recorders and old mechanical calculating devices. And I think one of the secrets to being good with this kind of video style is you have to have something you're interested in talking about. Enthusiasm is about 98% of it. That's what drives you forward when you're too tired to make a video, but you're going to make one anyway because it interests you. It's hard to be motivated when the subject matter is really boring and you have to force yourself to make a video. But I enjoy this stuff. That's why I do it. The important thing is you guys. What I've discovered in doing my YouTube productions is it really is an opportunity for me to offer a little bit of what I've learned in decades and kind of give it to you. And I'm not an expert on everything. Like, for instance, with typewriters, there's people out there that are much more experienced with maintenance of typewriters than I am. I'm only experienced with the things that I've done on my own collection. There's things I haven't done that a lot of people have, but the things I do know, I like to share. And that's kind of what my passion is teaching and instruction and kind of enabling and inspiring you guys. The same thing with my experience in the darkroom and in making homemade cameras and tinkering around with large format and paper negatives and pinhole and this kind of stuff. I've done that for a lot of years, and I have a little bit of experience. I'm not the world's expert on it, but what I do know, I love to share. And so that's my passion going forward is the things that I know and that I'm enthused about, I like to share with you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy them too. Before I close, I do want to mention that I haven't really talked much about the whole issue that we're going through with the pandemic, and it has been opportunity to do things that I probably should have been doing earlier. Like, we need to do another typing assignment. Yes, I know that. And we're going to get a typing assignment going here soon. So start thinking, putting on your thinking caps, but I think I have a good subject matter we're going to do on a typing assignment, and I'll make a video about that shortly. But there's also one other thing I want to mention is a little bit of mailbag stuff. So a little bit about mail time. Well, I've been really delinquent in responding to pen pals, and in fact, I have letters here that have gone back upwards of a year or more. But I do have some overseas correspondence. Jose Morel Ducos from London, United Kingdom. I sent you a reply. I appreciate your very well thought out letter. This one was from October of 2019, and this was from Sean Bolai in Calgary, Canada, and I really love his stamp there, his typewriter stamp. I did reply to him. This is Richard Wood's letter, and I really like the wax seal on his letter. And again, he types a very elegant letter and very nicely thought out. Troy Luna of Sacramento, I appreciate your letter. I did reply. And Mary Echevarria, I did reply also. It was a little delinquent, almost a year. I'm sorry for that. Another few letters, like David Peterson, I'm going to be sending you a return letter. Christopher McKellar, Christopher England, Brian Okabayashi, and a few others that I've received letters from and cards from. But I wanted to especially make mention of this young man, Javier from Jarupa Valley, California. He is 12 years old, and he has a collection of 8 typewriters, and he sent me a very cool letter. And Javier, I got a letter in the mail just today back to you with my signature. You wanted my signature. And yeah, his letter was really special. And he wants to be a writer and a history teacher. And my advice to him that I wrote in the letter is keep writing. Keep writing. And that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. Keep writing. Stay creative. And until next time, you have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye.